One. Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Chronic Illness and Mental Health series. My second guest is Allison.
Hi.
Hi. So why don't you start with telling us a little bit about your background?
Okay, so I'm Allison and I'm 20. I almost forgot my age, 24. And basically my diagnosis is chronic Lyme with the co-infection of Babesia and toxic mold syndrome, or whatever that's called. And I didn't find out until I think it was January 2020, my official diagnosis. So it's been about a year that I've had it for sure, but we think I've had it since junior year of college. So that would be like 3 or 4 years ago. So yeah, that's my chronic Lyme background. As far as mental health, I have been in treatment for depression, anxiety, and PTSD since I was 10 years old. So that's around 14 years now. And I went to counseling. I'm on medications, which works for me. It doesn't always work for everyone else. So I've dealt with mental illness before adding on the chronic illnesses. So it's a whole different game when you add on a chronic illness.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I really want to walk through from when you started with it without a chronic illness and kind of get to when you did, just because they're two very different things, like you said, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I haven't really had that experience of having it before and then a chronic illness added. It just came from a chronic illness. So I'm really want to dig deep into the before and then adding it on. So if you don't mind, why don't we start with kind of your beginning of struggling with mental health anywhere you want.
So I always struggled. Like I'm a really shy person until you get to know me. And I always struggled with friendships. And it started in elementary school where like people started bullying and getting catty. And when I was growing up, mental health was never talked about or it was shamed. And that was really hard to deal with as a kid. And no one really, like, you could go to counselors and stuff, but no one really knew how to talk about it. And that's the thing that was hard for my parents as well as myself. So I started going to counseling, and eventually a psychiatrist who prescribed me medications like Wellbutrin and fluoxetine, I think it was, a few other things to just kind of control my depression and anxiety. I was not great at taking the medication at first. Like I hated being on medication just because it just made me feel numb in a way.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the side effects of medication, and then especially when you're not consistent. Like I feel like some of the side effects are just awful. Is what I've heard at least.
Yeah. It wasn't until college or like the end of high school and college that I really got serious about being consistent on my medications. And then I started to notice a difference in my attitude and how I was feeling. Like if I'm off it for even 2 days now, I notice a difference. Like I notice a drop in my mood. I want to sleep all the time and I'm just miserable. So I notice a difference, and medication doesn't work for everyone. I'm not telling people that that's the route you should go. It just works for me right now.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think it's worth trying just to see if it does work, because I have heard like it doesn't work for people, and some people it makes it worse. But also I think people don't realize that if they're not consistent, it's gonna make you worse.
Yeah.
So there's that whole piece of it, I think. And I think I probably was one of those people too who wasn't consistent. It just doesn't, you have to be consistent. You have to be able to be consistent. So how did you start to be able to like be consistent? Because that's the hard part too.
I think it became I think my mental health really became a priority when I was in middle school and on it. I was going through a lot. I was bullied to the point where my parents actually pulled me out of school. And I was my phone, like had just gotten a cell phone. Like I was 13. That was a huge deal. Oh my gosh, I got a cell phone. Like and it was
Yep.
like a Samsung slide.
Yep. I love
Um,
those.
and somehow my phone got leaked, and the people who were bullying me were teenage boys who knew me,
Yeah.
who were in my neighborhood, and they got my phone number. And so they started leaving voicemails telling me to kill myself, which was like, I look back at it now and I'm like, really? Like, what?
Well, yeah,
Um,
but like at that age, that
at
is
that
not,
age, it's traumatizing. And
yeah.
like, they even went to the lengths where every night they would come and ding dong ditch our house at like 1 in the morning, and or like just TP our house. Like, it was consistent enough to where it
Yeah.
was like we had police at my house all the
Yeah.
time. And so they pulled me out of school. I remember being at graduation, at my graduation party, and a mom coming up to me saying, I did not think I would see you alive at this point in time.
A
Like,
mom.
a mom who her kid saved my life by telling her what was going on. And she
Oh,
was
okay.
like, I did not think I would see you graduate. And she
Wow.
was crying. And like, that stuck with me all this time. And that's
Wow.
one of the things that's kept me from going to that point where I'm like, I don't want to live anymore. Because there were points where I was at, like, I did not want to live. I attempted suicide a few times, and my family knows about that. I was never hospitalized. I never wanted to get to that point.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I've been at that low of a spot before, and I know how easy it is to slide back there too.
Yeah.
Um, and then once I went into high school and I really found my group of friends in college, I started to really take my mental health seriously.
Hmm.
And I realized I need to take these pills. These are what my doctors are telling me to do.
Yeah.
They think it will work for me. If I really don't feel it after I'm consistent with it, then I can always drop it.
Hmm.
So that's what made me become
Yeah.
consistent.
Wow. That actually scared me for a second. I thought you meant like the mom's being rude, and I was like, what?
Oh
A
no,
mom to like a
no.
kid? But no, now I see
One of
like,
them, but some of the moms who were of the kids who were bullying me were pretty rude and disrespectful. And like, they'd come to the house and they'd get after me like I was lying. I was like, no, I'm not lying.
yeah.
But like, that's all in the past. And like, boys will be boys. I don't want to say that. Like, I don't want to push my experience off as it's like nothing, but I've forgiven them. Like, I haven't told them I've forgiven them, but I
Yeah.
do forgive them.
For yourself. Like you kind of, I feel like you have to.
I had to, like, in order to move on, I had to forgive them. And I forgive them for that, like, everything. Cause I'm sure, I don't know. I can't read their minds.
Yeah.
And you know
I
what?
mean, they're teenage kids too. Like it was so, like I feel like boys back then, or even girls, like anything, thought it was like
Yeah.
cool or like funny to do
And
stuff
they
like
were the
that.
popular kids. So,
Yeah, and
like,
it's usually that group too.
mm,
I feel like they think it's just
yeah.
like cool to say that stuff, or they're like, don't think anything of it. But like at that
Don't
age,
see the consequences. Yeah.
yeah, because to hear that all the time at that age is traumatizing. Like now you might think, well, that's stupid, but like at like being 13 and hearing that is like,
You believe that. You believe that
yeah,
you should do that. And
yeah, and that's traumatizing. I think
yeah.
like that's at that age. I don't think any little kids are
Mhm.
able to handle that easily.
And this
So
is
be
actually like the first time I'm actually saying this out loud. Like, there's people who know about it,
hmm,
and like, I've talked about it in like a blog a long time ago, but like, this is the first time I'm actually telling like my story, which is a huge deal too. So
wow.
yeah.
I'm really happy you are because I know it's going to help a lot of people. And I think a lot of people probably have dealt with similar things. Um, I know even now, like kids at that age are still dealing with that. Like I know some kids in my brother's grade, he's 14 now, that are kind of dealing with something similar. And it's just like
And I'm
really
sure
hard
just
to watch.
cyberbullying too is even worse because there's no way to like control it, and it's not like a school can't do anything about cyberbullying. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, once it leaves their premises, even on a bus, like, I had bullying on a bus, and I was told the school could not do anything about it because it wasn't on their property. So it's
Yeah.
like,
that's the hardest part too, I think. And I feel like online too, it's become such a normal thing
Normal.
that it's like people are throwing stuff out all the time, and then you might hit someone that could be
Mhm.
seriously affected by it and not even realize. You might even forget an hour later that you said you typed something like that or sent something like that, and it's just, it blows my mind that it's still so like normalized in a way, which is
Mhm.
really really upsetting because it should not be.
Yeah.
um so I guess before we do move on, because I know a lot of people, it might be different because yours wasn't technically like was not from the chronic illness yet, but I
Mhm.
think we all have been to such a low point of like just not wanting to live anymore. And I think no matter what it's from, I think we all feel the same way in that
Yeah.
way, whether it's from chronic illness, whether it's from bullying, whether it's from anything, bad home life, anything like that. So if you don't mind, I do kind of want to talk about that a little bit,
Yeah,
if
we
it's
can
okay.
definitely talk about it. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
it's important because even right now with the COVID and everything, I imagine it's even higher due to being home. If you're in a not great home,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak to that because I was raised in such a great home,
Yeah.
but
But we all feel, I feel like we all end up feeling the same
at
in a
one
way.
point, yeah.
Yeah. We all experience the same feeling of not wanting to live past where you are now.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess we can start with like what was that like for you, especially at such like a young age? Because I know there are some younger people on the chronic illness community too.
Mhm.
So it's
At such a young age, now that like once I look back at it, it's terrifying because like if now looking back at it as I'm older, I'm 10 years older than I would have been then.
mhm,
And it's scary to think that I would have missed because I would have missed out on so much in my life if I would have ended it just then.
yeah,
And I have had so many challenges thrown at me. Even like the bullying was just the start of it. And I don't want to necessarily go into the other stuff that's happened that's kind of come up in my life, but
yeah,
um I think when you're in that mindset, there's nothing that's going to change it unless someone steps in. And I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. And what you need to know when you're in that mindset is that you have a purpose on this earth. Just
yeah,
because someone else is telling you that you don't, that's not true. You have a
yeah,
purpose on this earth, and you need to give yourself a chance to live it out.
yeah,
And when I got sick, I really looked back on my life and I was like, I can't believe that I was in such a place that I wanted to end my life
mhm,
because all I want now is to live my life fully and I want to be able to live.
yeah,
'Cause there were times where I thought like this is the end for me. Like I'm not like it's not my choice. I don't like I'm not choosing to be sick. But I was at
yeah,
the point where I was like, am I like dying? Like
mhm,
what's happening?
yeah,
I want to live. I don't want my life to end here. Like I don't want this to be my legacy. Like I wanted to continue living.
mhm,
So if anything, I want everyone to just understand that they have a purpose. Yes, you're going to face challenges in life, but you wouldn't be given that challenge if you whoever if you believe in God or the high anything, you wouldn't be given that challenge if you wouldn't overcome it.
yeah. I think I agree that that's really, really important to remember. And it's kind of crazy because, like, when you're feeling at such a low point of that, because, like, I've been there too, where I've tried to end mine as well. Like, I feel like it's such a common thing, unfortunately, like that I've seen. But it's so weird because I feel like you can't, it's so hard to think that, like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're feeling like that, because you're like, no, it's over. Like, this is done. Like life is done.
Mm-hmm.
um and it's so difficult to switch that mindset because no one really can for you. And I
You
guess you
have to
have to
have the
be
power to do it yourself. You can't.
exactly like people, you can ask for help or you can't ask, like some people can't, like I never wanted to, you never
Mhm.
wanted to. And it's just like no one can get you out of that. Like if you're not going to talk to someone either, then it's really on you. Like
On
even if
you.
you do choose to talk to someone, it's still on you. You might have more support, but either way, like all of it is on you. And it's like crazy to try to get out of that mindset. And it's some like when you're in it, it's like feels impossible. It's like, no, this is the end. It's done.
Yeah.
But it's so important to remember that too, to try to get yourself out of it, even if you don't believe it yet. It's like it's almost feels like you're saying empty words, but I feel like at some point something switches. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to. We're both still here, so something switched.
Oh yeah, something switched, and I'm one of the lucky ones. So,
Yeah,
and I
it's
think a
crazy.
lot of that can also transfer over to chronic illnesses too. Like you're the one who's dealing with it. You're the one who's stuck in it. Yes, you can have support groups who
Yeah,
understand kind of what you're going through, but no one will ever physically and mentally understand exactly what you're going through because it's such a different experience for everyone.
exactly. I agree because like yeah, we can all come together, we can relate, we can all share these emotions, share these physical symptoms, share all this stuff that's a part of it, but we could say like, oh, we both had a migraine today. But that migraine is going to be two very different migraines per person. Like no one is chronically ill in the exact same way, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
you're not.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. That's why different treatments work on certain people and it doesn't work on others. Like nothing is the same. Um, so I'm curious as to like when you did get sick, it's interesting how your mental health switched for almost the better, or it did switch for the better,
It
which for a
did.
lot of people it plummets like even more or plummets from happy to like
Mhm.
down. So it's kind of crazy.
I think it was a little mixed for me because
Yeah.
at the same time as I was being diagnosed, I was literally going, or when I first started like the testing and kind of finding out, it was like 2019 when I started to really dig in.
Hmm.
And I was going through a breakup at that point, like a
Yeah.
traumatizing breakup. It was a 4.5 year relationship, and I loved this person. And I
Hmm.
wish him nothing but the best. Um, but it almost the whole breakup and then adding on the whole chronic illness and starting to like really dig into that, it almost transformed me. And I really focused on myself.
Hmm.
Whereas before I didn't care about myself. Like to be honest,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm just working and just trying to figure out my life. But I really started focusing on myself, going to doctors, doing all these tests. And yes, I was depressed. I was sleeping all the time. Like when I was at work, I was falling asleep at work, but I was sleeping all day, all night. Like I was sleeping all the time. I'd take my lunch break and I'd go sleep in my car.
Hmm.
Like I had never had a depression like that, but also the chronic illness made that like it wasn't just depression, it was the chronic
Yeah.
illness. And I didn't realize it at that time.
Yeah.
And I was just moody, irritable. I was sick. Like I wasn't like I don't want to make it seem like I was happy and like my depression and my mental health went up because it
Yeah.
didn't. I just had a different viewpoint because I had my freedom taken away. And
Yeah. It
if I
switched from the wanting to
died
end
to
life
yeah,
to
yeah.
not wanting to, but it still
Hmm.
affects you badly
Yeah.
mentally.
And with just depression and anxiety before, I I mean I felt isolated, but not as isolated as I did once I got sick. Once I got sick, I just felt a whole nother level of being on my own. Like, yeah, I had my family and some friends to support me, but I felt like alone because I didn't know what was happening. Doctors didn't know what was happening. I had no one, I couldn't find anyone who was going through what I was going through until a year ago. And that
Yeah.
was you.
Oh
And
my
so,
gosh.
yeah.
That's
like
crazy.
about a year ago that we've become friends. Like that's
Yeah,
blows
that's
my mind.
crazy. I didn't even realize.
Hmm.
Oh my God. That's crazy. Yeah.
So it's like that was a main thing. I still like even though I'm on treatments now, I still struggle a lot
Yeah.
with depression, especially with my flare-ups. And I noticed I'm really irritable and I feel bad for my boyfriend because he gets the brunt of it a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for him. He supports me through it all. And like he can't understand it all, but he tries his best to just take care
Yeah.
of me. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. And that's really important because I feel like a lot of people don't have people that
Mhm.
try to even understand or help
Yeah.
the people that need help.
Mhm.
Um, but it's crazy how lonely it gets too, because it's like you start to feel crazy because yeah, so many people are affected, but all those people are around the world. There's no one around you. It's like you might find one person in your hometown, maybe
Mhm.
two, maybe three, like a couple sprinkled, but like there's not
I
really
think
anyone in your circle.
And I think that also comes with like when I was growing up, no one wanted to talk about mental health. I think within the past few years, it's become less of a negative thing to talk about. But
Yeah.
I feel like with chronic illnesses, with Lyme disease, no one really wants to talk about it because it's like
Yeah.
negative, negative. Like when I was first sick and my family would ask me, "Oh, how are you today? What was your day like?" And I'd be like, "Well, I don't feel good or I'm in pain and stuff." They'd be like, "Why can't you be more positive? Why are you
Yeah.
always so negative? Or at least you don't have cancer." That's one that I got for months. And yes, cancer is bad. Like I know that it's not a good thing,
Yeah.
but at the same time, what I'm going through is not okay at all.
Yeah.
And uh, with some cancers, there's a cure.
Yeah.
Lyme right now, there's no definite cure.
Yeah.
And so
And I feel
I
like a
don't,
lot of people compare it because it's like with cancer, you have an end, whether
mhm,
it's bad, you don't make it, or whether it's
mhm.
good, you are cured. And then it's like you go into the chronic illnesses and it's like
There's no,
you're not gonna die, but
yeah.
are you gonna get better? Like it's just this, it's an unknown.
And I hate
Um,
comparing illnesses. I don't think it's fair
yeah,
to
I know.
compare illnesses, but like when,
Because they're so different too. It's just not.
yeah, it's just when someone says, well, at least you don't have this, that's where then I get triggered.
Yeah.
And then I go like, and I don't like speaking out about things. Like I don't like confrontation, so I usually just let it go, but it will eat at me for days because
Yeah.
it bothers me that much.
Yeah. And it's hard to hear. It's like, okay, thanks. It's like that does not help my situation at all.
And I
Um,
think that adds to like mental illness with chronic illness because all the negativity towards it and just the like, oh, it doesn't matter that, and just even with doctors, like how they treat it necessarily, like it's never great.
yeah.
So then you're just kind of in this limbo of, oh, no one wants to help me and everyone just sees me as negative. So,
Yeah. And that's the hard thing to deal with. It's like
mhm.
they can't understand why it's supposedly negative, but I mean, it's not. It's just honesty. Like it's how you're
And just
feeling.
be honest. That's how you want me to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, do you want me to be honest or do you want me to hide it? Because I'm great at hiding things. Like, I can hide how I feel all the time. And that's one thing I always did with mental illness is I'm great at hiding how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And so I can do that easily with chronic illnesses and chronic
Yeah.
pain, and you'd
And I
never
feel like
know.
having to hide it or feeling like you have to hide it just the like comes for your mental health. It's like
Mhm.
slap in the face or like a punch to the face. It's like, okay, no one wants to at least let me talk about it. No one wants to hear how I'm feeling. No one wants to help me at all. And then you just get lonelier and lonelier. And then you get, I feel like it just makes you more depressed, like it sinks you into it. And it's just, once you constantly hear those things, you start to feel crazy too. It's like,
Mhm.
if you're hearing it all the time, then yeah, you must be, which isn't true. But like, that's
Yeah.
what the thought process is too.
And then you
Um,
just stop talking to those people about it in general. Like, I have amazing friends and they support me through anything, and they'll check in on me, but I won't necessarily talk to them about how I'm feeling or if I'm sick any or like any like the pain and stuff anymore,
Yeah.
just because I just don't want to bring that into a conversation anymore. It's just not worth my energy at that point. And I love my friends if they see this. It's nothing negative about you.
Yeah.
Um, I'd rather spend that time talking about it with the chronic Lyme community and like with
Yeah.
our support groups and through our Zoom meetings. I'd rather spend my time talking about that with people who understand and who can give me
Yeah.
a different perspective.
Yeah. I agree. Also because like you don't have to explain
Mm-hmm.
over half of what you would with someone who doesn't understand. It's like you can go into the support groups and you're like, this happened. You don't have to give a background. There's like, oh, like I had that too, or like I know what that's from. I've heard about that. Like you go to someone who's not chronically ill at all, and then they're like, what's that? And you have to backtrack into like your whole story. And then
Yep.
it's like, I don't think that's great for your mental health either. It's exhausting to have to constantly
Exactly.
re-explain the story you've been through up till now just to talk about one little thing that's little to you, but then it's just some big thing to someone else because they don't
And
know what it is.
And don't get me wrong, go like for anyone who's watching this, go ahead and if you have great friends who are really supportive and like really want to understand and help you, go ahead and talk to them about it. Like continue doing that. But
Yeah.
if you really want other people who understand what you're going through, look for a support group. Even Abby's obviously is incredible.
I
So
love it. I love everyone on there. They're so
it's
nice.
like it's changed my life and I've met so many people and it's brought me into so many different groups, like even a book club. Like I didn't think going into this, like just accepting a friend request on Instagram or following
Yeah.
someone on Instagram would lead to me being in such a better mindset than I was a year ago and
It's
have so
crazy.
many friends. Like I think
I didn't think that either, even starting it. I was like, well, I'm going to follow my friends and family. Woohoo. And then all of a sudden I
you
found like
blew
all of
up.
my
Like,
friends,
yeah.
like all of my, some of my like closest friends now, like you,
Mhm.
um, and like everyone. I won't
And
name
I
names
think
just in
that's
case they don't want me to name names, but like I met so many amazing people, and it's just you never think that something a
mhm.
small action can turn into like a whole different life, which is insane.
I think that's the important thing. If you're really down and falling into this depression and even if you're not in a chronic illness, find a support group. It's not that hard to search, oh, chronic Lyme or depression support groups, or like with social media, it's so easy to join a group right now. Like it's
Yeah.
all virtual too. Like you don't need to like go to a support group. You can just do
Yeah.
it virtually and you don't need to necessarily participate. Like that's the one thing I love is with your group, we don't need to talk. We don't need to have our videos on. We don't have to have our mics on yet. I feel it makes it more personal,
Yeah.
but
But you don't have
it's
to. Like some people, plenty of people like to come on and just listen to us all talk. Like
mm-hmm,
there might be 15 people and then only 4 are talking and then the rest are listening. It's like it just doesn't matter. It's like
yeah,
your preference. And I think it helps either way. The people who don't want to be seen or talk can
mm-hmm,
just listen to other people and it can help them kind of feel seen or heard because they're like, oh, these people also are going through what I'm going through. And it
mm-hmm,
just kind of, I think, sheds a light on what you think is like what you think no one else has. I feel
yeah,
like. So I think it just sheds like this light to be able to
mm-hmm,
talk about it, to be able to hear about it, to be able to hear about like depression too. Because I've gotten a lot of, or have heard from a lot of people that they're like, oh my God, I thought I was crazy for feeling this depressed because no one posts about it. Like you don't see posts about mental health
exactly.
anywhere. And I
And
get so many messages that are like, I thought I was the only one feeling this low, like feeling so incredibly low that I didn't want to live anymore. And I'm like, but so many people feel like that.
that's the thing. No one posts about it because of the reaction they would get.
Yeah.
And growing up, like I said, no one wanted to talk about it. It was such a negative thing to even
Yeah.
be mentally ill and a stereotype. And I still like I don't like, I do want to post about it, but I'm hesitant about it because
Yeah.
of how others would react. One, two, if an employer, that's a big thing. If an employer were to come across my profile and see all this stuff about anxiety, depression, or chronic illnesses, they could take it as I'm not a good employee, which is not true. I
Yeah.
work really hard. I work from home now. Like, it's just, I think that's a few of the things that keeps people from saying anything in
Yeah.
general.
I think that's a huge factor. I've heard a lot of people say that too. And that's like such a hard situation because
Mhm.
then like I don't think anyone should post it about anything they're uncomfortable with. Like that's stupid. Do not post like what you're
Yeah.
not comfortable with. Just post what you're comfortable with posting. Um and of course like it turns out that mental health is still viewed so negatively
Mhm.
that it turns out that that's just one of the subjects that isn't posted about
Yep.
enough. Or like it just isn't because of those reasons. And it's like then you have everyone feeling extremely depressed or anxious or super low and they're like, oh my god, no one else feels like this when so many people do. And it's hard because like how do you break that? How do you like get it out that so many people
Mhm.
are struggling with mental health like that,
And I
like
think
being
this is
chronically ill?
one way, having discussions about it.
Yeah.
And, like, I think if there's any family members or friends who really want to support someone who has a chronic illness, that they should just even do research on your own, and that will mean so much to that person.
Yeah.
Or even just talk to them about it and like ask them and just really dig in deep. Take an hour to talk with them about their chronic illness and try to understand as much as possible. Just listen. Don't say anything necessarily, but be supportive. Like,
Yeah, I agree. The not saying anything because it's hard when you want to talk about it and then they try to give advice that they think
mhm,
is helpful, but it's like you've heard it 1,000 times and it's not going to do anything. And it's just hearing all those same like the same advice like yoga, water, whatever is also damaging because it's like that's not going to help and I just need to talk about how I'm feeling.
or
And
even like if you really want to help, ask, what do you need? Do you need me to
yeah,
make meals for you? Do you need me to do something to help you out? Do you need me to drive you to doctors? Like the simplest things, like even taking time out of your day, like to check on them. Like it
exactly.
doesn't need to be a big thing.
I think that's really important to help people out of depressive episodes too because like you have flare ups, it kind of coincides with the depressive
Oh
episode. Like
yeah.
you're gonna be pretty low when you're in a flare up, and then it just back and forth of like can't get out of bed, but why can't I get out of bed? Is it because I'm in this much pain, or is it
Mhm.
because I'm really depressed right now, or is it both? It's like
And
a
then you feel
mixture.
bad for not getting out of bed because you
Yeah,
want to get all these, you want to be active, you want to do all these things, or you have a list of things you want to do, or you'd rather go and sit on the couch and watch a movie than lay in bed all day.
yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people go through. I mean, I know at least I do, and I think I've heard from people go through such highs and such lows, but their highs aren't like great because you're still
Mm-hmm.
sick. But it's like I was able to do this today. And then you go through such lows because then you're not able to do a lot for a while. And it's like such a damaging cycle of highs and lows, highs and lows. And then how long is the low going to last? How long is the high going to last? It's not, neither of them will last forever. And it's just a hard thing to jumble.
And I'm trying like to keep the mindset that yes, there's going to be consequences for my actions. Like anything, there's always consequences for your actions. But for me, mine like last weekend I went to a ice or a pond hockey tournament,
Mm-hmm.
and cold weather and my joints do not go well together, and just my
Mm-hmm.
health in general. And I knew going into it, if I go to do this, I may be out for the next week, but I was completely fine with being out for the next week because I was spending time doing something that my boyfriend loves, that I
Yeah.
would enjoy. And I'm getting out there and like just being active in general. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's just standing there or just walking around, I was out doing something. And enjoying my life. And that's something if I did 2 years ago, I wouldn't have even done it in general, because I'd be like, no, it's not worth the consequence.
Yeah. I think that's really important because something like that helps your mental health. You
It
just need to be ready for like it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be a consequence, and you have to be mentally ready to handle that, because the consequence can send you into a bad mental health spot, which is why, like you said, like you need to be mentally ready, and you need to realize like this action might not go well later, but I'm giving myself this happiness for right now.
exactly.
Even if it means that the next little bit is going to be tough,
Right.
and it's not going to be good. And it's just going to be a cycle. But if right now you have a cycle, you're going for treatment. Yeah.
Like, that's life in general. Like,
yeah.
I don't like, before I'd be like, I'm putting my life on hold for this. Now, since I've been sick, I'm like, I can't put my life on hold. I can't put my life on hold anymore, because if I do it, I'm not going to enjoy my life. I'm just going to sit at home all the time. I'm just going to sit in bed all the time being sick. Yeah, a lot of people can't get out of bed, and I totally understand that, and that's okay. And there's days I don't get out of bed. I don't even move from the couch for days sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But if there's something you really want to do and that you love doing, don't give it up because you're afraid of the consequences. That's just what I'm saying.
Exactly.
And I know a lot of people are gonna have different opinions, and that's okay.
Yeah. And like no one fits into one box. I don't know if you were there. I think you were there for the support group. We were talking about everyone is so different. Everyone has like their own little box. No one's going to fit into one box. Like some people might say, I don't want to do that for a day. I don't want to do something that I love for the day just because of what's going to happen later. And that's, that's fine.
Okay.
And then you have some people like you that said, I want to do this. I want to be happy for this day. I know what's coming, but you're mentally ready to handle that. So it's like, and it's still going to be hard.
Oh yeah.
But you're mentally ready to not slip into the lowest of lows of like, I don't want to live tomorrow. At least is what I'm getting.
Yes.
Could be wrong. And, okay.
Like, I'm not saying I'll never get to that point again, but seeing what that point was in my life, I'm trying at this point in my life to stay as positive as possible and not slip back into that, because there's really no point in me ending my life over me being sick.
Yeah.
Like,
it's something you can't control.
I couldn't control being bit by a tick. Like, yeah, you can take precautions, but you're not guaranteed. And I couldn't control that my symptoms didn't come till later than normal or later than what I wanted. But like, you don't have control over it, and you just gotta do what you can.
Yeah. You adapt, like humans adapt. That's what we evolved. Like we all adapted to being human, and it's the same thing. Exactly. Like you adapt to what you're given. And
like we're adapting to COVID, like or most of us, some of us are. I mean, I work from home. Like, I'm learning to work and live my life with a chronic illness, and working from home has made that huge difference. Like, mentally, I'm in a way better mindset working from home than I was working in an office.
Yeah.
Like, that has also changed my world for me. So like, it all depends.
And being chronically ill, like working from home is so much better because when you're if you have to work, like you don't have a choice, and you kind of can, not really, but like you don't have a choice. But like if you're not in like one of the paralyzed states, which some people unfortunately get into, but when you're in the state of you shouldn't be, and you're not healthy enough to, but you don't have a choice because you need some kind of income to get better,
for the medication.
Makes no sense.
We need how do we afford the supplements and all the treatments, because none of that's covered by health insurance. So
exactly. And that's so damaging to like the cycle of like mental health, I feel like, because you can't afford it. It's
Mhm.
expensive. And then you're forced to work and then you feel awful. And then you're
Mhm.
just like in this constant cycle
It's
of
just a cycle
agony.
of, yeah,
And it's just,
everything comes together, and it always, I think like it centers at mental health. And I think we need to, as a world, start looking at mental health as like, I don't even know, like it's important, like for
important to
everyone.
talk about and like not a negative thing that's going to keep you from
Mhm.
getting hired for a job. Like
Yeah.
everyone struggles with mental health in some way. Obviously,
Mhm.
some are more severe, some aren't. Like some people might get a little anxiety one day or like super low one day, and then some people it's their whole life. Like there's so many different levels. Everyone deals with it. So it's like,
Yeah,
why is it such a negative thing? I don't know.
exactly.
Can't
It
answer that.
shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't at all. And whether it's from being chronically ill or just mental health in general, it just all comes back to the same spot. Because
It's
mental health,
yeah,
I mean, it's different for everyone, but it's also the same for everyone. It's like,
yeah.
it's different and the same. It's weird because
You
so
never,
different.
well, like in life, no one experiences the same thing.
Yeah,
Like you're not given the same opportunities necessarily. Like every experience is your own, and you think about it in a certain way, and you pull information a different way than someone else. So
yeah,
it's like mental health, your experience is going to be different than mine.
yeah,
Everyone's experience is different. And we just need to all, I think, uh, everyone needs to come together and talk about it in a positive light and make it a priority,
yeah,
especially starting young.
exactly.
Because if you tackle it at a young age, there's better chances for young children to grow up and not have so much of a burden, or not, I don't even want to call it a burden, so much
Yeah,
of a struggle or challenge with it.
just like a weight
Mm-hmm.
on your shoulders. It's like, it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. And then at some point, it feels like you're going to like drown or sink or something. And that is so hard to get out of,
And
whether being getting sick or not. Like that is hard to get out of.
for me, a huge thing that when I'm depressed or like just going through a really hard mental health day, a huge thing for me is music. And I want to touch on Avril Lavigne because she has Lyme disease, and her
Yeah,
song Warrior is about Lyme disease and talks about drowning. And like that song has literally gotten me through the toughest days because it
yeah,
talks about drowning and how you're not ready, and like just help me get through this. And I
yeah,
think everyone should take a chance if they're struggling to listen to that song.
yeah. I think that album that it's on, Head Above Water,
Mm-hmm.
Warrior, and then I also love the song Head Above Water.
Oh
Like
yeah,
both of
maybe
them.
it was Head Above Water that I was thinking of. Maybe it was that one, but
Either they're both about
they're,
Lyme, I'm pretty sure.
they're both about the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Head Above Water is the one I was thinking about. I apologize for that.
No,
Line
it's
brain.
okay. I was thinking like they're both the same message, so I was like, I didn't even
Yeah.
question it at all.
But music is a huge thing that keeps me. Music and art is what I use for my therapy.
Yeah.
And I think if you have mental, if not, even if you like, even if you feel like you're depressed or anxious, finding something that calms you, soothes you, and just distracts you from those feelings is the best way to go. And for me, that's drawing, reading, or listening to music. So
Yeah.
I encourage everyone to even take 5 minutes out of their day just to find that moment where they can find their peace.
Yeah. I love that. Actually, my new physical therapist just said that to me on Wednesday. Like
That's
literally the
great.
same thing. He was like, because I walked in and I was really stressed. I was like, whoa,
Mhm.
my stress levels are so high right now. I was like, I'm sorry, I am all over the place. Like I was 20 minutes late. My stress
Mhm.
levels are through the roof. Um, and I didn't really talk about like mental health, like how I was doing, but I was just like stressed. And he was
Yeah,
like, he said the same thing. He's like, well, I think you need to pick 5, 10, 15 minutes out of your day, something where you don't think you're literally, you don't, nothing else exists, nothing else is going on except for what you are doing. And he said, do you like coloring? I was like, yeah, I like
exactly.
coloring.
Yeah.
Like you said, coloring or painting or just something where You don't have to think. You're just doing it. You're not thinking. Nothing else exists around you. Maybe you don't. Whatever thought process you need to go through, like, to kind of center yourself again, I think is really important too.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do. Easier said than done. I suck at it.
Easy. I'm not the greatest at it. I mean, I think I just recently joined a chronic illness book club, and that's really forced me to start taking that time every day to really do something I enjoy, which is reading, or sometimes I draw and stuff, but being art is kind of my job. I don't necessarily want to spend all that time doing art.
That's true, because then it brings in the stressor of a job. It's like that defeats the purpose of the point of it. Or like even watching movies. Like I literally only watch, well, we both love Marvel. It's like I literally only watch Marvel and Harry Potter and then Office sometimes. So if anyone wants to talk about Marvel, Harry Potter, whatever, come to us, you know, we're open to that.
Group.
Yeah, literally. A Marvel one. Because WandaVision is going on right now. It's kind of crazy, won't say anything. But if like that's a fun thing too. Like reach out to people you know that like that stuff and just talk about it. Especially with Marvel coming out with all these shows now. Like plenty to talk about. Which I could go on forever for Marvel.
And that's the thing. I feel like with social media, it's so easy to meet new people and just start conversations. And like that's like I didn't like I said before with the Lyme support group, or even chronic illness support group. I don't know what we're calling it anymore, but like
no idea.
Every day I feel like I have a new person who wants to just join my life journey and just see how I'm doing, and I support them as well. And it's just mind-blowing because it's like just this common interests, then they build into friendships, and then it's just incredible. And I think that helps with mental health in general.
I think so too. And it's awesome as well because you could not answer for months. And then you come back randomly and they're like, oh my God, so happy to see you. Like, they don't question it. They get it. Like if you went through a super bad depressive episode, like with flares or anything, you might be gone for a long time. Like guilty of that. Of me being gone for, I'll pop in every few weeks. I'm like, hey, and everyone just gets it. That it's so hard. It's like things are so draining, so exhausting, and there's no obligation. And they're nothing but just happy that you're back. Like, they're not going to question you. They're not going to be like, where have you been? Like, why this, unless you want to talk about it. Because they're just like, oh my God, you're back. Like, we get it. It's a really nice feeling. And I think a really, like, a weight lifted off the shoulders. And mental health-wise, too.
Yeah. I feel like when I was, like when I first started the group, I was like, okay, we'll slowly work my way into it. And then like I didn't start doing the Zooms right away because I was just like, I was unsure about it, but I started like the text message group right away. And then once I started the Zooms, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I need this. I need to talk to someone like weekly or every 2 weeks just because of the support and the love and all of that. So I don't know. It's just changed my life for the better. And I want to thank you, Abby, for that. And everyone who's been involved. I don't want to say names because I don't know who's comfortable.
I know. I don't know who's like uncomfortable or not comfortable. Like, it's like, but like they know who they are. I think they watch this. They're like, that's me. Like they know who they are. And I literally say the same thing. Like everyone's like, thank you for starting that. And I'm like, well, thank you
for being a part of it,
somehow coming into my life. Like you found my page somehow. Like I found your guys' pages somehow, and it's just like it's like Uno reverse.
Yeah,
Uno reverse
feeling.
Like it's the same feeling. Like I'm extremely grateful every day. Like finding that whole community, and it's like I started a video call, but like it helps me too. It's like it's crazy. And it's just the same thing. Like, I'm super grateful every day, and it's just changed my life too, like the same way you said, and it's crazy. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Constantly. I'm always like, wow.
Yeah, sometimes like because I talk to my mom like every other day or something, which I would not like when I lived at home, I was not the greatest like communicator, and I was like a teenager because I was living at home with my parents. But now it's like being away, and I call her all the time, and she's like, she's interested. And I when you asked about the mental health and chronic illness and talking about it, I like called her right away. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna talk about like I just get so excited, and I like whenever something comes up with the community, like I'm talking to my boyfriend or my parents about it because I'm just so proud to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a small part, like I'm just so proud, and I get such a great feeling being a part of this group and having all these friends from all over the place, all over the world.
Yeah. That's great. That's the crazy part too. Like, I've talked to people in Canada, Mexico, UK, and I'm like, we're in completely different worlds, but we're dealing with the same thing. And it's crazy. And I'm literally mind blown all the time. If I think about it too much, I'm like,
Abby. Find yourself an Abby.
It's like, then find yourself and everyone else, like you and everyone else that I'm not going to name right now, just in case, no permission.
Well, everyone who is watching this, you're who we're talking about.
Exactly. Whoever's watching this,
don't know me, you're a part of the group.
Exactly. Like you know us, you're watching this, you know us somehow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's really important to build those friendships because it's so different from regular ones in your life. And it's just so helpful. And it's so nice. And I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Well,
if I can say one last thing,
I was gonna say, what else do you want? Do you have anything else?
Last thing, to anyone who's just struggling in general with mental illness, with chronic illness, with family, just friendships, and just even with this COVID and pandemic, your life matters. You have a purpose on this earth. Your duty is to fill that purpose and just be yourself and find people who have like interests and who you are fulfilled or like they fill your bucket or your cup or whatever with joy. If you're looking for a chronic illness group, definitely join ours with Kick Out Lyme or however we want to call it.
Has no name anymore.
Your life matters and you're important and you're loved. That's basically what I want to get across.
And I agree. Could not have said it better myself. I completely agree. And I hope people remember that. And I hope they remember that after watching this. And I hope they know that our group is open.
It's open to everyone.
Always open. It has no name. It's called support group, but it's open. Because it started out as a Lyme one, and then it kind of changed. Now I have no idea what it is. It's perfect. It works out perfectly. Like, we talk about everything. But I think that's good. I think that was good.
Me too.
Well, I guess we'll say goodbye. Well, I guess we'll stop the recording.
Subscribe, like.
Yes,
share.
Like, share, all that stuff. So I will say bye, guys. And bye. I don't know how to stop this. Okay. Well, you're